Hello again, everybody. My name is DuFay, and welcome to the channel, The Mandela Effect Equals Everything. I haven't done a video in a while, and I'm sorry about that. I've been busy moving into a new place and fixing it up and remodeling it. You can check my personal channel and look at the progress that we've made over the past year in our new place. But I've been busy. I think about the Mandela Effect every day. Still, I really do, because it's the most important thing that's ever happened, I think. But recently, I finished reading a book by David Icke, who I really appreciate. I always liked him. And, he used to say some crazy things that were really off the wall, but now there's proven that he's been right all along as far as us living in a matrix, if you want, for lack of a better explanation. Very interesting. I read his book, The Dream, and it really talks about how us human beings are basically technology. And that makes a lot of sense. We're artificial intelligence to a higher being that created this bad copy of this, simulation, this reality. And everything the Mandela Effect is revealing actually really confirms his theories. He talks about this reality being a computer-generated simulation. And what the Mandela Effect's revealing is this quantum entanglement with other realities. And he doesn't talk about that at all. I suspect he doesn't know anything about the Mandela Effect, or hasn't been affected with it, or experiencing it. But from what I take from the Mandela Effect with this quantum entanglement and what's involved there, it really vindicates his theory even more, because it would take this quantum entanglement, to make all this simulation work. And it's just fascinating when you think about it. It really confirms what he's been talking about all along. So I highly recommend getting that book, The Dream. It's his latest book, and it's just phenomenal. It just kind of sums up a lot of things, and brings out how backwards and insane this reality is. And the Mandela Effect's revealing that there's multiple realities. And it would make sense, because if this is all a computer simulation from super high technology, then of course they're going to have quantum entanglement involved, or quantum mechanics involved. So again, what he's been talking about, and what's kind of been being realized by other, academics or scientists and physicists, are starting to realize that this could be a simulation, which of course it would be, regardless of, how we perceive things. We were created, obviously, in this simulation or whatever. It doesn't matter. The fact is it makes a lot of sense. Basically, this simulation, this bad copy, our souls, or our higher being, the soul. I mean, it's really interesting, because he talks about our soul, which is splintered and fractured. In fact, I've asked him on a couple of videos and comments section about that, and he hasn't replied yet. But if our soul is splintered and fractured, that would make a lot of sense, because that's like in the fourth dimension. Our soul, our sixth sense, and things like that, that's all part of the simulation as well. And we have so the soul being splintered and fractured really makes a lot of sense if you think about it. And also, what's amazing about the book is you find out that, I always thought that life was basically a test, and that our soul just moves on and whatnot into a higher being, or reincarnated into this, this reality again. And that's all part of the trap as well. But I always thought that life was a test, But here it turns out that life is a trap. Basically, our higher being, which could be one, who knows? Again, it makes a lot of sense that our soul is splintered and fractured, and in this bad copy in multiple realities. And it's basically a trap. So it's something I would recommend looking into. To me, it really actually goes beyond the Mandela effect, what he's talking about. And the only way to get out of this trap is to just, realize that it is a trap and don't believe in it. Just don't believe in it at all. And even when you pass on and you're in that fourth dimension or heaven or whatever you think you're in when you pass away, that's all part of the trap too. So it's something to really consider. And I think, once you're in that trap, or in that fourth dimension or that realm of the simulation, knowing that those, people that are there guiding you supposedly are all part of the simulation as well, and that they're full of crap. So, that's why when you pass away, you have a feeling that you've never had before, supposedly, and this is from near-death experiences, people talking about it, that you feel like you've never felt before. And if we have been being, reincarnated and recycled back into these realities, the fact is, and I've always talked about this, is that we obviously come back with a clean slate. And what they do is they fool you into thinking that if you come back, it's part of, your growth and things like that. I always knew that everybody's reincarnated. But that's all part of the trap, and then you come back with a clean slate. So how can you learn anything? I mean, some people, there's like rebirth, recall. That's where a lot of us get our talent, and where animals get their instincts, is from, been there, done that. But we totally forget about it and come back here with a clean slate. And as David Icke talks about, it's just basically you're coming back into a hellhole. Some of us are well off, and some of us are, living week to week, but things ain't so bad. But for the most part, the entire world is just in poverty and just a madhouse. And look at the wars and things like that. It's quite obvious that Israel allowed that to happen, so they can get at Hamas. It's like everything's just backwards and just bad, for the most part. And that's because this is what they call a bad copy. And it is a non-human entities that are running the whole thing, the simulation. Obviously, they've been around for, who knows how many years, millions perhaps. And they have extreme high technology. And this, he calls it I'm trying to think of where he got a lot of his information from, an ancient group of people. I can't think of their name right now. But they had a name for that individual, Satan and whatever you want to call him, but it was Yaldabaoth or something like that. I don't know if I got the pronunciation right, but for lack of a better, term, Satan is the one that's made this bad copy that we're all continually recycled back into. So we can create, that's why there's madness and insanity, so we can all be miserable and create what they call the loosh. And basically, this simulation is a loosh farm. And there's just millions or billions of people that are supplying this loosh which is apparently very important. Even worship is a form of loosh that they, I guess they have to have it. I recommend reading that book. It's just fascinating. I know, like I said, I've always liked David Icke, and no, he doesn't believe the earth is flat or anything. I don't know where that came from, but the simulation, the earth is a globe along with the solar system. It's all legit, but it's just a bad copy of the prime reality that we're trapped in. And apparently we can get out of it, but they fool us into staying into the cycle and coming back in over and over. Who knows how many times that we've been reincarnated into this bad copy that's been around for a long time. And things are getting worse because I guess that fourth dimension, that realm that they dwell in, is chaotic as well, because it mirrors this reality, and they're blending more and more into it, so things are going to get more and more insane. So but anyway, everything that David Icke says in this book and all his previous books and his his talks and everything, I used to always love listening to him talk, because he has so much knowledge about our soul and everything. And he's, makes a lot of sense. And of course, with the Mandela effect, it makes me wonder what's up with the Mandela effect. Was that a glitch in the Matrix or something like that? Because that's why it's only happening to some people. Or is it that, higher? I guess we have an infinite being that is just remarkable. And that's what they need. They need, the emotions that this, three-dimensional world creates. They need that from our infinite spirit. And it's pretty interesting. That's why I highly recommend reading that. I couldn't hardly put it down. It was a very good book and explains so much, and it kind of correlates in with the Mandela effect and what it's showing us. It's basically showing us, we are, in this computer simulation in multiple realities with our splintered and fractured soul. And again, if you think about it, it would, a simulation would require multiple realities that we're all in our soul that is splintered and fractured. But what he's saying is basically our soul is part of, that simulation, that we have a more infinite and higher reality, basically in the fifth dimension, that we can get back into if we don't get tricked into staying in this simulation. But what's amazing is we're like a two-edged sword to that simulation. That we have what they need, and they need our permission. So they're, and our being as it is now is capable of understanding that and getting out of this trap. But they'll try to fool you. But if you don't believe in it, you can get out. If you can't, you have to deal with the reality as it is now, but knowing about what's going on and understanding it really helps. It really does. That's why that book is just so fantastic. I never read any of his other books or anything, but I'm sure they basically talk about the same thing. But in this book, he seems to have like more understanding about it. The fact that, yes, we are reincarnated, and yes, our soul is part of this. But it seems like those of us that are affected with the Mandela effect have even greater knowledge and understanding that our soul is splintered and fractured as well, and that each portion of our soul is independent and living in another simulated reality. And it would take that, if you think about it, for I don't like to use the term Matrix only because it was a movie, but he quotes that movie quite a bit and says how they're actually very accurate about a lot of things. So that's really interesting. So I would highly recommend reading it with that understanding that we have this, splintered and fractured soul, and that the Mandela effect is revealing these kind of things. It's really amazing. So that's why I've been kind of, slacking. Again, what David Icke's saying is more important than what I'm saying. You know what I mean? In the Mandela effect. So it's kind of like I have that's why I haven't done many videos lately. Just trying to keep going, and there's nothing else you can do. There's basically nothing you can do about it except understand. So for when that time comes, when they're asked to sign another contract, basically, in a sense, to come back here, and we're being tricked. So we can't let ourselves be tricked at that point. And I'm talking about when we pass on. So in the meantime, just having a better understanding about everything is important, and not believing in this simulation and whatnot. and understanding what the Mandela effect's revealing. Basically, it's revealing what's going on in this trap. In other words, the cat is out of the bag, and that's the way we got to look at it. And in the meantime, there's nothing you could do about it. I mean, I'm one of those people that can't stand to see a bird being killed by a cat, for example, and things like that. And that's the kind of feelings that they thrive on, that non-human entities and the legions and the Confederates involved. So they thrive on that. So it's hard not to be empathetic, and for me, it's almost impossible. But that's the thing they feed on, our emotions, and from our higher spirits. So it is like a two-edged sword. They need it, but it's also capable of bringing them down, which is going to happen. That's why that fourth dimension, if you will, is getting more interactive with our dimension, because basically the more people that find out about it and don't believe in it, things like that, the more higher vibrations occur and kind of really mess up their thing that they're doing. And there's nothing they can do about it. Again, it's, maybe their house of cards is ultimately going to come down. In the meantime, they're going to try and, have as much control over us as they can, and so they can feed off of our emotions. So again, it's hard, for me, it's hard to be, not be empathetic, but you still can be, but try not to really have those intense feelings. Try to keep them at bay and things like that. Again, it's just follow David Icke is all I can say. And I wish he understood and talked about the Mandela effect, but he never does. I think it's, again, what he's revealing and uncovered is more important. Honestly, it is. But to me, the Mandela effect and what it's revealing is confirmation about what he's talking about. And I only wish that he understood that. I wish I could, it'd be pretty cool talking to him about, hey, do you know our soul is splintered and fractured, and that each portion of our soul is fiercely independent and in another reality that is virtually identical. Of course, there's variations and differences, some extreme, but the fact is it's unusually similar. Excuse the movement of the camera. I'm holding it, kind of nestling it in my steering wheel here. But it's just fascinating. I highly encourage you to read it, because it gives us a better understanding of really what this reality, or these realities that we're a part of and that we've always been in, is about. It's fascinating. So with that, I thank you for watching, and I'll talk at you later. Love you.